Oh, how absurd.
Such a ridiculous. It was like so serious for 29 minutes.
Oh my God.
No.
It was
In a very,
awesome.
very good way. No, we need more of that.
Oh, yeah, Beatitudes. Welcome back to another great episode of the Beatitudes, a show for Christian men seeking to grow in their call and their walk with Jesus Christ through humor and holiness, and all along the way experiencing that good old-fashioned authentic fraternity. Isn't that right, my
Ooh,
friends?
that gets me going.
Yeah, my name's Jeff. My last name's Shufflebine. I always slow that down because Jeff Shufflebine sounds like something completely different. Jeff Shufflebine. I'm joined by Nick Besner.
That's me. I'm Nick Besner.
And I'm joined by Paul Kolker.
Hi, yes. I'm going to be faster.
No negative words out of you today. Hi, yes. Let's get them.
Yes, let's go for it.
All right. Well, we have been enjoying this show so much. I want to just put a plug out there. Something really neat is happening. There are thought leaders and there are Catholic heroes and there are men of just great stature that are reaching out, A, to support the show, B, to be on the show, C, to ask for these stickers.
That's the real reason we're talking about
Everybody wants the stickers.
I wanted a sticker.
That's why you're here.
I wanted a sticker.
We said only if you'll come on the show, Jeremy. So I just want to encourage people that if you want to get engaged in the show, we are rounding the corner, heading into our late 30s something episodes right now. Pretty excited about that. And all along the way, it's just been a great journey. And I just want to thank my co-host because I think most podcasts fail because people aren't cool.
That's it. That's the one quality.
I read a statistic.
Often it's the unanticipated workload, I would think. But yeah, we're cool.
What I read when I read all the statistics was you got to be cool to make it. I'm interpreting
whatever the words and numbers said, that's what you took away. That's important.
Yeah, reading between the lines.
Hey.
You studied engineering. You know math and Excel and finance.
Perception's reality.
I know how to sell something.
Even if it's totally made up.
Here we are.
Hey, never let the facts get in the way of a cool story.
That's
Thank
it.
you, brother.
That's
Thank
it.
you. But I will say this. In my life, I always strive to be directionally accurate. And we
Of
are
course.
cool. That's a fact.
Directionally.
Yeah. The coolness vector is pointed in the right direction.
Vector. You
To
said
go
vector.
with the engineering,
Coolness vector.
which
is a t-shirt.
automatically cancels out. Any coolness I had was reneged the moment I said vector.
Coolness vector. Oxymoron. Like, what else?
From a bunch of oxymorons. Well, speaking of cool, I'm going to stick on that, not moron.
Yeah.
I can't believe we get to sit here with my friend Jeremy Robinson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I don't feel very cool.
What?
I'm not as cool as you guys, but
You're wearing a killer T-shirt, and we're all wearing button-downs. One of us looks like they could go hang out with anybody, and the rest of us looks like we're getting ready to go back to work after this.
Which is largely true.
Jeremy, how do you think you ended up on this show? How did we get to be with you today?
that depends on who you ask. You and I met a couple years ago.
That's right.
And we were doing the what is it? The quarterly
business ethics forum.
Business ethics forum. And
I'm good at the forum part.
Yeah, right.
You guys I'll give you one for the ethics part. Not fart.
The ethics part. Hey, and I'll give you some for the business.
There we go.
See?
I see what you
Thank
did there.
you.
That was
Jeremy,
good.
we interrupt our guests.
No, totally fine. No.
It's
Yeah,
kind
we
of our
just-
shtick.
I don't know. Having just several coffee meetings and lunch meetings, and you telling me what you're doing, and starting up this cool podcast. You said, "Hey,
Could have
would you
sworn
ever?"
you were going to say, "You tell me what I'm doing." Like, Jeremy, here's what you're doing next.
Yeah, let me get the list of what you told me I'm supposed to read. So no, you just you said we're doing these great things, and would love to have you come on and tell your story. I'm like, absolutely.
Well, you have a great story to tell, but I want to brag on you for a second. Which this is actually really weird because it involves me bragging on me.
Because of course.
Who could have seen that coming?
I tried to pay for the food. We had a nice Mexican meal together, and I tried to pay for the police officers that were in there. It's like a thing. My wife and I said, first responders of any sort, let's just pay completely we're not getting any credit for this with those two guys, just with the thousands of people that are going to hear this. So let's do it for no credit.
We need to show the air quotes somehow via.
Those two guys will never know it was me. But I couldn't get it out fast enough because Jeremy beat me to it. So we split the payment, and he was already, it wasn't like he was like, oh, me too. He was already in motion.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so we sounded like this weird, like double mint twins commercial, like, let us pay for the police officers. You know, like.
That's been something that's been very important in my life, is always thanking those first responders.
Yeah.
Military, police, firemen. I make it a point in my children's lives, anytime they see one, to go up and thank them.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a lot of people lose sight of the sacrifice that those families do for us.
And to hear that from a kid, they know that the family's raising that kid out of a place of respect. You can watch their countenance change. You know, who knows what's going on, what they've
Right.
just heard, what's going on in their personal life. You know,
Right.
they also have bills to pay and drama going on in their lives. To hear that from a kid's a big deal.
Right. And they don't need additional drama outside of the drama that they already deal with, you know, protecting and serving. So to do something nice, I think it just shows that, hey, there are people that still love you.
Yeah.
There are people that still support you, and that, you know, back the blue, back the military, whatever. And those are values that I want my children to grow up in. So it's something my dad always did. And, you know, you always watch what your father does.
Yeah.
And, you know, my dad was my hero growing up, still is my hero to this day. And I try to pass on those things to my children. So any military, any police, fireman, anybody that's on the front line serving, just like you offered, it's like, I always do it without question. And I always ask the waiter, don't say anything.
Yeah. Yeah, this isn't about me. This is
Yeah.
about thanking you. Man, that's beautiful. Well, I think how many kids do you have?
I have 2.
All right.
I wish I
Ages?
had a lot more.
Do you want some?
I would.
You got some to spare?
Yeah.
How many? Do you have some extra bedrooms? I would love to. No.
Let's pawn a couple off here.
I love my kids. That's actually a complete joke. I want 4 per bedroom. So I don't know how many that ends up being. That's math.
That's a lot.
Yeah. We'll put it in the spreadsheet.
Especially, yeah,
The vector broke. 2 kids, ages?
8 and 10.
All right, perfect ages for forming young people. I think that any fathers or people who desire fatherhood in their life that are listening to this, like, think about what Jeremy just talked about, right? This virtuous act that is not even the words, right? It's sometimes just the act of serving and caring for other people, showing love for other people. You pick up on that. You picked up on it from your dad. I would love to hear about your journey. How did you grow up to become a guy who would be interested in sitting in a business ethics forum where faith and business issues are debated and are grappled with, because we're all living in confusing times? We know what the ultimate teacher is, but how do we translate that sometimes into the most practical or the most difficult or the most career-ending moments of our life? Like, how did you go from childhood Jeremy to business ethics Jeremy? And I don't know where to go with that other than,
Yeah, I don't know.
How were you
That's
raised from a faith perspective?
So I was raised in a, and I can remember 5 years old, we went to the Methodist church. And when we were, I think it was like 7 to 9, we went to the Lutheran. And then for the rest of my life until recently, I was Assemblies of God, non-denominational side.
Okay.
So
There's
evangelical.
2 sides to Assembly of God.
There is. You've
Okay.
got the very structured, very legalistic, very traditional side. And then you have the non-denominational, evangelical, charismatic.
Sure.
And so I spent the vast majority of my adult life in the charismatic evangelical. So, yeah.
And then how does that play out in your life? I mean, obviously there's a conversion part to this. How does that translate? If you can kind of pull us forward from, first it sounds like you get a little bit of sprinkling of everything. Then you get into this evangelical non-denomination sector. I just want to pull on that thread because I know a little bit about the way that you show up, how smart you are when we're in a group of men about what the Bible teaches us, who we're called to be, where that kind of comes in to discord with the way that we're, mostly living in America these days. But how were you formed? What happened after that?
So my family is very, very spiritual. They would they would definitely not say they're religious, right? Spiritual is they've got a relationship with Christ, and they, explained religion was that, that's kind of the legalistic, you have to have a relationship with Christ, and you got to attain his favor by doing things. So I was raised in a very spiritual family, and so it was always do unto others as you would have them do unto you, the golden rule, and to always think of people in your life first above yourself. So I had a very good family, very, very good upbringing. I actually went to seminary to become a pastor. I actually am an ordained pastor still. But, I think there's a...
How long was that process to become an ordained pastor?
Well, do you want the quick answer, or do you want the spiritual answer?
Yes.
Right.
Quick answer first,
yeah.
And then
So I actually ended up going to a seminary here in the DFW area for a couple of years, and they stopped the program that I was wanting to finish, and so I stopped going to the seminary. So I never got like ordained through this seminary, never joined a specific church. But my niece a couple years ago asked me to marry her. And so I had to become ordained. So
Okay. That was the internet version.
I went onto the internet and I submitted a couple of things and said, I love Christ. And there I was ordained. Didn't matter. So I was ordained.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but I think
Just hope the printer doesn't run out of ink.
That's right. That's right. So I did the wedding ceremony for my niece, which was really special. But I think, where I'm at now, I think there's a period in every man's journey when he starts questioning what he believes and why he believes in it.
Yeah.
And I would say, I wouldn't say that I had a somewhat of a spiritual crisis in my life. I flat out had a spiritual crisis in my life, and it was really interesting. So in 2014, I was really focused on drawing deep in my relationship with Christ. And the scripture, 1 Peter 3:15, struck me like a bullet in the chest. And I've read this scripture a trillion times.
We're Catholic. Can you tell me what that is?
Is that always be ready and willing to give a defense of your faith or the reason for your hope or something like that?
To anybody
Good
at
job.
any time.
Okay,
right?
there we go.
And
I'll take
so,
it back. He knows what he's talking about.
yeah, he's a good Catholic. He's a good Catholic. So
Thank you, Paul.
I missed those 3.5 years in seminary.
That did help. That did help.
well, that scripture really had an impact on my life at that moment, because I said, outside of my testimony, I gave my life to Christ as a kid. I love him. He died on the cross, forgave me of my sins. You should know Christ. Well, I thought, you know what? That's not going to work for some people.
Sure.
There's going to be some intellectuals out there that are going to know why you believe what you believe, and they're not going to take the authority of the Bible as any valid authority to debate from.
Sure.
So I'm like, well, okay. Well, why do I really believe what I believe in? If I removed what my parents told me, would I still find myself being a Christian? And I'm like, wow, okay. Well, Lord, I said, I want to know you, not just with my heart, but I want to know you with my being. I want to be ready to give a defense to anyone, anywhere, for the reason of the hope that I have in my heart. Mm-hmm. Well, you said something at the beginning of the podcast. You're a salesman. You can sell anything. Well, when you think about sales, a good salesperson understands the antithesis of any argument because it's convincing a person that your position is the position that they need to take. And so I'm like, okay, well, that scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to understand the antithesis of the spiritual argument, you're going to have to listen to people that really know what they're doing. And so I got scared. I got really, really, really scared. Anybody know Charles Templeton, Dr. Charles Templeton?
Name sounds familiar.
Because of you.
Yeah, you've mentioned him.
I've actually gone back because of you and read some of this stuff.
Okay.
But keep going.
Does anybody know Billy Graham?
Sure.
Now everyone knows Billy Graham. Why? Because he's the revivalist, right? The guy that did all these massive conferences, praise the Lord, I'm going to save as many souls as possible. Well, not very many people know Charles Templeton, but Billy Graham didn't start those revivals. Charles Templeton did.
Mm.
Billy Graham was Charles Templeton's right-hand man. And Charles Templeton, at one point during these revivals, said, after he would get back and done and all these people saved for Christ, he would question whether or not he truly believed what he believed in.
Whoa.
So he wanted to understand the historicity, that's a word, yeah. And he wanted to understand the context and the philosophy and the underlying root. Like, he really wanted to know Christ. So Billy Graham and Charles Templeton said, hey, we'll have an idea. If we get accepted into Oxford's theological seminary, we'll abandon this and we'll get our doctorates in theology. Well, they didn't get accepted, but they got accepted to Princeton. And everybody knows Princeton's theological seminary is one of the greatest in the world. But it has a problem. It has a problem of deconverting a lot of Christians because they dive really hard into things that most Christians don't realize. And so Charles Templeton went, Billy Graham said, I'm going to stay. So he continued the revivals. Charles Templeton went and got his doctorate, and he deconverted. This was a man that, led many people to the Lord, and he deconverted. And his last memoir before he passed away was in the early 2000s. It was called Farewell to God. And I got terrified because here's a man that did the revivals with Billy Graham, that had this intense relationship with Christ, that lost his faith, lost his way. And I'm like, Lord, I'm no one. I'm not a giant in this. I'm not a revivalist. I'm not a pastor, right? Well, if you've ever read his memoir, it's tragic and it's really sad. The last interview that he gave on camera, he stopped talking in the last minute, and the interviewer was like, are you okay? And Charles Templeton started to cry. I said, what's wrong? He said, I miss Christ.
Oh, my
I miss my
goodness.
relationship with Christ. And that gives me goosebumps, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a second man that terrified me in this journey of understanding the antithesis of the argument. And that is a man by the name of Dr. Bart Ehrman. Dr. Bart Ehrman was a Lutheran minister for 14 years. And he got to the same point. I want to understand Christ. I want to go deeper in my relationship and my faith because of 1 Peter 3:15. He goes to Princeton. He deconverts. He is now the leading authority teaching the doctorate of philosophy and theology at Chapel Hill. And he's considered the foremost authority on New Testament theology. And his whole shtick is, I'm going to show you more than 3,000 contradictions in the Bible that prove that it is not the inerrant word of God. And his goal is to deconvert people. And I'm like, Christ, Lord, with all of my heart, I can't go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I need to go down this rabbit hole, and I was terrified that I was going to lose my faith. So I got on my knees, and I said, I've got a choice. I can take a red pill, or I can take the blue pill. And I was like, okay, Lord, I said, your word says that if I pursue you, if I chase you, if I seek you with all of my heart, I will find you. I'm asking for you to redefine your love in my heart from what I'm questioning. And I went down this rabbit hole. And I started listening to the great God debates. That's where I first started. And that's listening to all these great academics and prognosticators and philosophers and historians, the Christopher Hitchens, the Richard Dawkins, the Dr. Bart Ehrmans, the Dr. Tim McGrews, the Dinesh D'Souza's, the Bishop Robert Barron's, right? And so you hear their argument about why God doesn't exist, why you're a fool to think that Christ is a legitimate reason for faith. And some of these arguments, like when they're going to the Bible on history and philosophy and science, and I was like, wow, that's really that's hard to combat.
Sure, it's well constructed too, I'm
Compelling.
sure.
I mean, extremely well constructed. And I started getting really scared because I'm listening to these guys that were in my position, that went to seminary, that became pastors, that were serving, loving, teaching people about Christ. And then I'm no longer a believer in Christ. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on?
Wait, real quick, was Bart Ehrman, was he the one who was on the Colbert Report back in the day, being interviewed? And
I believe so.
Okay, because Colbert did a response to one of his arguments on the air and left him dumbfounded, and it was about how the four Gospels were basically the different Gospel writers were trying to grab onto a piece of a mystery that was bigger than themselves.
Right.
Right, and so it's like four blind men trying to figure out what an elephant is, and one thinks it's spears, and one thinks it's a snake, and all of that. I mean, but they're all talking about something beyond them, and Bart Ehrman was just kind of shaking his head like, huh.
Yeah.
I think it was the same.
I think it
same
is.
guy. But anyway, sorry. I mean, it was an interesting moment that one piercing analogy from the perspective of faith can actually leave all of that academic stuff kind of grappling in the moment.
Yeah. Well, what changed in my journey of like really trying to understand and identify who Christ is to me. Like I knew the spiritual aspect. I knew the religious aspect. I wanted to know just a little bit more about Christ and in my life and understanding what history has said and what philosophers say. And it was crazy. On a side note, I was raised to believe that the Catholic Church, and this is funny, was the whore of Babylon. It was a cult. It was not a Christian institution. There are many in the evangelical world. I wouldn't say all of them, but they believe that the end times will be ushered in through the Catholic Church, like the second coming. Satan will be personified through the Pope. I can't believe that I'm even saying that.
Sure.
Like that's literally, that's what I was raised to believe. Catholics are not Christians. They worship Mary. They pray to the saints. They idolize everything else. And then Christ is like way down on the list.
Sure.
And so I heard one of the debates with Bishop Robert Barron.
Yeah.
And that was the first time. And I was so blown away, not by what the guy knew, but how much love he just, I was speechless. Still even today, I'm speechless when the guy talks. It's just like, wow, the anointing that comes from that man's heart is so strong. I was like, wait a minute, but you're Catholic.
Yeah,
You're Catholic. You can't speak like that.
Yeah.
You're not a Christian, right? You don't believe the things that Christ said. You're all about Mary and the saints and everything else. And that started a massive seed of doubt in my spiritual journey. And it was a couple years that I went through this spiritual. It was 8 full years of a spiritual crisis. But my spiritual crisis was about 2 years strong, where I was really reading everything and diving into it. But there were five men that God strategically placed in my life. And it's crazy because I was on my knees and I'm like, God, I feel like you're slipping through my hands. Like I feel like I'm losing you. And I said, I need you in my life right now. I need you to help me because I can't think like this Catholic guy. And I'm afraid of what I'm seeing. I'm afraid of what I'm finding out to be the truth. I said, I need you to bring men in my life to reiterate what's true in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
He brought 5 men. They were all Catholic.
Of course.
They were all Catholic. And their lives were so incredible. It wasn't the words that they said, it was the lives that they led that spoke so much more truth to me. And when I would ask questions, they would give me answers, and I would go back and I would be terrified because it spoke truth to my heart. It resonated with me, and I would start reading more about this. I'd start asking questions. Well, why Mary? Why this? Why that? Why the saints? Why praying this way? Why the sacraments? Like that was a word that I've rarely ever heard in my Christian life, the sacraments. And like the sacrament of reconciliation. I don't need to go to a priest to get forgiveness of my sins. That's ridiculous. Christ died on the cross. I just ask for my forgiveness and it's done. And I started seeking out the truth behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was last year. It was actually last Easter.
Mm-hmm.
There was a moment in my life where one of my good friends that God strategically placed in my life, he said, "Man, we've come this way. It's been 7 years now. It's like, what's holding you back?" I told him, I said, fear.
Yeah.
Fear of what? I'm like, because I'm leaving everything that I once thought was true.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be walking away from everything that my family told me was true. And I'm going to have a very, very, very hard, I don't want to say life.
But it ain't the easy path.
It was really hard and tough because I knew I was going to lose friends. I knew I was going to lose family. I knew I was going to lose this. But I was on my way home. I passed by St. Francis of Assisi, and I just felt the Holy Spirit say, now is the time. And so I whipped a U-turn, pulled right into the parking lot. Never been there before in my life. I'm trying to open up every single door. They're all locked. Right? I finally walk in. I'm like trying to find somebody in this church. And the guy walks around the corner. I was like, okay, what's it take to become Catholic?
Why not just lay it out
He's
there?
like, it's 11:59 p.m.
No, the guy takes me into an office. He's like,
How'd you get in here?
yeah, exactly. Security.
Yeah.
But I literally asked him, his name was Deacon Greg. I said, how do I become Catholic? He said, well, tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for. Like, why are you asking this?
Yeah.
Told him my whole thing. He said, well, buddy, we've got an RCIA coming up. I had no clue what that was. I thought it was like, yeah, I thought it was like,
a weekend sign up.
yeah, no, not even that. I thought it was just like one night. Hey, we're going to do this.
Oh,
this
the
is what you
online
believe in.
checkbox.
Everything. I'm like,
I am an internet pastor right now, sir.
Do you know who you're talking to?
I've checked yes several times online.
had I known that it was like a year-long process,
Yeah.
I that probably wouldn't have done that. But I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
I'm already
Yeah.
here. I'm
Yeah.
already in. I got to do it.
You made it through the locked door, so
I made it through the locked doors.
Knock and the door shall be opened. Or
Okay,
they'll come
there
around
is-
the grounds and find you.
Yeah, there is a lot
That's so
going on
cool.
here. I don't want to tie this up too quickly, but I'm very curious. So you go through RCIA. You're saying Easter, 2 Easters ago, so this would have been 2022.
Correct.
You come into full communion with the Catholic Church.
Correct.
What was that like for you? What was that experience?
It was intense. I'll tell you, the first time I took Mass, I cried.
Yeah.
It was insane. I didn't think that I would, but it was the peace that I felt whenever I took the Eucharist and what it meant, and everything that I had learned, everything that I had tied up over the last 7 to 8 years. Understanding that it was that struggle was a purpose, and I'm an emotional guy. Anybody that knows me, they all know I'm an emotional guy. But even Mass on Sunday, this last Sunday, I just cried. I'm like looking around. I'm like hoping like people aren't just staring at me. And I've got tears rolling down my
I
eyes.
hope they are.
Oh, that was you.
What a witness, though, because I always tell
Yeah.
people, like, we have a friend coming, I'm going to say a friend, a bartender from 3 weeks ago is coming to Mass with me this coming up Sunday. We talked about faith at the bar. I followed up last night, and he said, I just gave up on God because he hadn't answered me in 3 weeks. I go for a walk to shake it off and say, I'm done asking questions, and I come back to your emails sitting here with a Bible verse and an invitation. I'll see you at St. Anne on Sunday at 10 a.m.
So
I mean,
wow.
my wife is in tears because she's the one at the bar that when he walked off, she goes, that man needs to hear what you have to say. So when he comes back here, you help him, connect him to the people you know. And the person that we connected him to is Jesus. But I'm telling you this because if somebody can get into Mass, let's just take the complete stranger that walks into Mass for the first time and they see Jeremy being moved by the holy sacrifice of the Mass, being moved by the grace that abounds even when you are sitting in prayer and not even yet receiving the Eucharist, you're showing them the truth of what's happening in the Mass, that they don't have to comprehend. It's the blind elephant. They know there's something. They know they can feel something. They don't have to understand all of it to know, I can see that this man knows something that I want.
Well, it's a witness of faith. I mean, it's an embodied witness of faith that, yeah, okay, there's somebody who's believing and moved, and I mean, it's a powerful witness.
I will tell you, I'm not sure had I been a cradle Catholic if I would have the appreciation that I have now. I think it's because of the struggle and the questions that I asked. Like, I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know why the churches are built the way they are. I want to know why the priest wears his garments, the spiritual armor. Like, I watched how a priest puts on his garments and his robes. What's the altar for? What are the candles for? What are all the stages of the cross? What are the stained glass?
Yeah.
Why is the church organ? And everything was in preparation for your worship and the holy acceptance of Mass. And I loved the fact that this really sold me as well, that you're participating worldwide, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a pastor that's just picking a few scriptures out that's trying to, give you a nice motivational, you're reading the same New Testament,
Yeah.
the same Old Testament, you're reading the same words of Christ in unity as one family. And you're receiving that word from a priest on apostolic succession. Now that's something I did know. but understanding the power of the apostolic succession all the way back to
You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church.
that's my saint was St. Peter.
Ah.
And the reason is because Peter denied Christ. Peter denied Christ. And it was when he was on the shore, cooking the fish.
Yeah.
Peter recognized immediately. Yeah. And it's like that abandonment, that love, but also that, you've had that doubt. Like I've no doubt many Christians have rejected Christ daily in their life, but it was just powerful.
Yeah, I got to think that when Peter saw the Lord on the shores of Galilee there, that he was like, I've walked on water before. I can handle this. But then he just splashes into the water, has to swim his way back. No, that is beautiful, though. Thank you.
Jeremy, there's a lot to unpack here. And of course, I'm so blessed that our show has both this show and the bonus show that we're going to have with you. So we're going to keep unpacking this. But right now we need to unpack some points. So we're going to make a transition here, if you will.
Yeah, this is Blessed are the joke makers, for they shall inherit 85 points.
85 points. Oh, my. This is a big one, Jeremy.
This is a big one.
And you, as the judge, better recognize that 85 points is a big deal to us. We're getting towards the end of season 1.
Well, there's a little bit of pointflation going on here, so just throwing that out there. No, all right, so what we have to do is we have a character card that we're going to have to respond to the Catholic card game question as that character. So
I feel like this has been so spiritually heavy that I need to get back to my normal.
Can you dial that up real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, you get what's about to happen. We're going to press a button, and then you're going to hear us say some stuff. One of us might be better than the others at something.
Yeah, or if it just tickles your funny bone the right way, whatever, it's fine. You don't have to have a reason for why you're.
Or out of
picking
pure
this.
sympathy,
Yeah.
you can give it to the current leader.
I never say anything. Jeez.
That is too much fun. Okay.
Down.
All right. Whoa, not yet.
Hey, now.
Not yet. False alarm. All right, here we go. The character card is a sour school teacher. That's interesting. And the question we have to answer is, youth ministers love talking about blank.
They just love talking about how they make so much more money than we do.
Youth ministers love talking about how their praise and worship and teen life and all the things that they're doing over there are just so much better than what they're learning in class. You got to sit there and do their homework and all that. It's unbelievable.
Youth ministers like to talk about how they are forming young men, but I know a guy named Dr. Bart Stimpson or something that went off and got deconverted because of them youth ministers somewhere in a place called Templeton University.
Did you say Bart Simpson?
Yes. Yes. That was amazing.
My shtick is just try to relate it back to the guest and stuff.
That was
pandering.
That was good. Pandering. Yeah.
Pandering is great.
Well, no, it's just relational, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
going.
thought pandering is what they do when they ask you for money on the subway. But Jeremy,
Handling.
Who's the winner?
How many points does this?
85 and
85.
to the victor go the spoils.
I would have to say, Jeff, you
Let's go. Panhandling for the win.
That's gonna be your. That's gonna be your.
It was the Bart
easily,
Simpson.
Yeah, right.
It's gotta be your biggest
Somebody
win.
named Bart Simpson.
Pretty sure I said,
Dr. Bart Simpson.
y'all, I've been working on my accent.
You have. It's not as nearly Australian as it used to be.
No, I've actually been picked on online for that, which is getting a little trolly. Hey, for being our celebrity judge, you're going to get some socks from Sacrilegious, and I know you don't have these. These are the Day of the Dead, Dias de las Muertes.
Nailed it.
Spanish.
Is Spanish your first language, Jeff?
That's amazing.
Those socks are going to cause people to say, you really went off the deep end with this Catholicism conversion.
I totally do. These are great.
Those
Thank
are
you
awesome.
very much.
Awesome. And for you Beatitudes who are looking for your next pair of socks from Sacrilegious, go to sacrilegious.com/Beatitudes for 10% off and get the same socks as Jeremy. So if you ever run into him, you can say, hey, bro.
Where are your socks?
Lift that pant leg, show your socks.
That's what they say. Lift that pant leg. We'll see you after the break. Hey, y'all, this is Jeff Schuffelbein. When Nick and I set out to start our new company, Undivided Life, we were really concerned about how would we cover the healthcare needs of our growing families, and we were so excited to find a company that fit both our medical needs and our faith beliefs perfectly. It's called Solidarity Health Share. It is an ethical alternative to traditional health insurance. We're never part of sharing in the medical costs of anything that goes against the teachings of the Catholic Church, making it a great alternative for Catholics and Christians alike. Solidarity is very affordable, which is perfect for a large family or for a new and growing business like the one we've started. So visit joinsolidarity.com today so that you can get started with us.
Let me tell you about Decided Excellence magazine. Decided Excellence is a great resource reaching thousands of families in your local community. They've got original content featuring local families and notable theologians like Scott Hahn. If you're looking to grow in a specific way, they can be a great partner for that as well. They partner with thousands of parishes creating parish magazines. If you're a business owner, Decided Excellence can be a great way to advertise to homeowners right there in your backyard. And if you're looking to earn a little bit of extra income, Decided Excellence has a partnership program where you can become the owner and publisher of your local magazine. So partner with Decided Excellence and begin growing together today.
Hi, it's Paul Kolker from the Beatitudes here, and I just wanted to share with you guys that I also, outside of the show, perform improv comedy on a regular basis with a group called Divine Comedy. So what we do is we come up with everything on the spot, so whether you're looking for faith-filled, fun, family-friendly comedy for your youth night, or whether you're looking for clean comedy for your corporate event, Divine Comedy can perform for your group and even get you in on the action. So if you'd like to hire us to come out and perform for your next event, check out divinecomedyimprov.com. Divine Comedy, an inferno of fun.
Welcome back, everybody. We're sitting here with Jeremy Robinson. Sorry about that. Fumbling over my words today. Jeremy. I didn't do enough warm up in prep.
In all of our extensive prep.
In our red leather, yellow leather prep.
We also just ate fajitas was our prep for the show.
That's right. Anyways, Jeremy Robinson of Cardboard Spaceship.
That's
I love
right.
that. Do you fly a lot?
Well, for travel,
on the spaceship?
Yes. Yeah, right.
No, I guess, where does that name come from?
Well, we went through a full rebrand here last year. The company was formerly known as Tribe Films. And when I took over the company a few years ago, the first thing that I did was a competitive analysis. And I pulled up 1 trillion production companies that had some form or iteration of the name Tribe in it. And there are a lot of very large companies with the name Tribe in it.
Interesting.
And I said, I want continuity of our own brand. I want our own voice. I want our own image. So I decided to go ahead and rebrand it. So we hired a company in Dallas, told them, what we wanted in a name, told them kind of the underlying passion that we do. And they brought a number of names to us. And when I saw that name, all of my partners,
I love it.
Yeah, it's sophistication and imagination.
Yeah. And it captures that whole childlike joy of imagining things and coming up with things.
That's right. And I'll let you take over. I don't want to continue on that side.
For everybody who's listening, because I know we're going to dive in on the bonus show about Cardboard Spaceship. You are what? You're not just a film production. It's more, or is it?
We are film production. Okay. So anything that you see visually, commercials, branded content, documentaries, narratives, anything that you see visually. So the name you say, kind of like childlike wonder.
Yeah.
Anything that you see with your eyes, it's artistic, right? What you see moves you. What you hear moves you. That's the reason why advertising is so big and commercials are so big. So, we wanted to have that mix and mash of creativity, but imagination. We didn't want to be just another film company or a commercial company out there that's producing videos. Anybody can do that with a camera. They can do any of that. But it's the companies that think outside of the box, or better yet, we like to say recreate the box. We want to transcend the limitations that we as adults place on ourselves for creativity. And we wanted to create something that truly spoke to whatever brand, service, product, or company that we were shooting for. And we wanted to be able to push that to the edge. And so Cardboard Spaceship was kind of a nice name, nice ring to it.
We're ready for you to start working on the Beata doc about the launch of what has come to be known as World's Funniest Catholic men's podcast for
We is
human-
articulate.
That's why we need your help.
we need a sort of a brand identity, not a rebrand, but yeah.
What are you talking about? The Beatitudes. That's amazing.
It's pretty legit.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
legit.
I really,
We
I
were
was
baiting
I
you.
was fishing. Yeah. Thank you for that.
I mean, if you could be in our company meetings for the Beatitudes, it's mostly this. We nailed it.
It's just a big pat on the back session.
I heard somebody else say we nailed it. Me too. Incredible.
I was that person.
Our
was
group
just
chat
us.
is just a like button that keeps going, and we're liking.
Yeah, we've almost broken Slack.
I love it.
It's like Jeff's like, Nick, I nailed it.
I nailed
Every point I did,
nailed
I thought
it.
it was so good.
You know what my favorite part was? When I nailed it again, and then you nailed it.
Boom.
You want me to take it from here? So we're going to do the Beatitudes question of the day. It's called the TBD question,
Okay.
or TBD deck of questions. I'm really articulate today. TBDD.
TBD squared.
Thank
The
you, Paul.
Yes.
deck.
Paul is the voiceover to what I'm actually thinking. What am I thinking right now, Paul?
I officially nailed it with the Beatitudes deck.
You are very good at this.
So good.
All right, so the question that we're all four going to answer for this, and these are usually introspective, is on a previous show, we actually asked the question, give us a moment of fight or flight. It is really strange to see four men all pick a moment of fight. Like,
None of us wanted to.
Well,
Nobody's like,
I was the one that actually backed down.
and I ran.
The Boys to Men cover?
No, I ran so far away.
Oh, that one. Yes.
I couldn't get away. Who is that?
Stop.
You're going to the 80s. That's what it is.
I am in the 80s. I didn't go
I
anywhere.
am the 80s. Gen X.
There's a point to this.
Ah, yes.
Today, no one's allowed to talk about their fight and their stepping up to. This question is all about reflecting on a time when you ran away. And so this could be figuratively or literally or whatever. And running away is actually, in many times, the best option. So there are plenty of times that flight was the appropriate or best response given the circumstances. I'm going to put you on the spot, Nick. What do you got?
No, I've got one. Right before senior year in high school, took a trip to New York City with my a few classmates and some other high school kids, and we were staying in this hotel. First time in New York, no parents, or just chaperones. Like my parents weren't there, and we had gone up the stairwell to hang out with some other kids in a different room on a different floor. And as we went back down to our room, there was this empty or open briefcase with contents strewn about. And remind you, like, I'm from a town of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
There's more people in this building than my hometown. Like,
Right.
in the middle of New York City as a 17-year-old, and we're like, what just happened in this creepy, dimly lit, let me add, stairwell in the middle of New York City? Let's get the heck out of here. And we ran and got back into our room, and it was like, what is happening? Then we heard somebody in the hallway, like, with loud voice, and like, something was definitely going down, and we just stayed locked, stayed quiet, like.
You chose correctly.
Yes.
And I ran.
And that was the time I flighted.
Flighted. Great job.
Made that sound so much more active, though. Flighted.
Yes.
Yes. Not,
Yeah.
It does sound stronger to flight your way out of something.
I didn't flee.
Well, so actually, it is interesting, though. I remember, and yes, I know this makes me sound like I want to just talk about fighting, but doing martial arts, they taught us that retreating can be just attacking backwards because you want to get out of maybe a desperate situation and free yourself up, actually, to either strike from a place of confidence or strength or whatever it is, but that it's not pure cowardice to actually leave.
It's tactical.
It's tactical, yeah. You're not just fleeing because you're scared. It's like, no, maybe this isn't the best situation.
I didn't know you did martial arts.
I did, yeah, for 4 years.
Slap foo.
That was that. Yeah.
Hey, he has a move that he does for some of our guests when he wants them to be quiet, and he can somehow hyperextend his leg and kick you sideways right now.
Under the table.
Yeah, it requires medical attention the older I get, though. So
You don't get any belts for that. Can I ask you a comedy question?
Yes.
Isn't there a play for improv in this? Like you have the belligerent drunk and you have to do the retreat move.
Self-deprecating humor.
Yeah, you're
so-
kind of bringing it out to take it away.
In a lot of ways, yeah. You're sort of agreeing with the fact that this person is being aggressive by playing the character as a lower status character, right? Like, oh, I guess that's all I deserve, or I mean that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden they realize they realize pretty quickly they're like, oh gosh, yeah, I'm being a jerk in front of all these people. Yeah. It ends up being a wake up call sort of move, and it's not an aggressive one.
Yeah, when they're like, I'm being a jerk, you say, my job here is done.
And then I disappear in smoke. But yeah, so flighted, couple. These are both very short, but just a couple of times that I flighted. One was actually a high school trip. We had gone to New Orleans for a swim team trip, and so I went to Jesuit in North Dallas, and we were swimming against the Jesuit New Orleans school down there. Coolest thing, right? As teenagers, like go on this road trip, and we're in a bus and all this, and get down there, and it was competitive and it was great, but we did get to walk around, chaperoned, but we got to walk around, parts of New Orleans, and there's a lot of voodoo stuff and whatever there. And some of the guys were like, oh, that says don't touch this altar thing, whatever. And they went and I was like, nope, I'm out. And I left that alone. And they had like these kind of scary stories, whatever, afterwards of like lights flickering and stuff. And I was just like, yeah, better that I stayed away from it. Maybe they were embellishing. I don't know, but I was just like, just don't even touch it. Don't even stay near that. So.
You chose wisely.
Thank you.
Confucius said,
That's
you
it.
chose wisely.
No, but and then the other one was something I actually learned in seminary from being too hot-headed. I just real brief story, and it wasn't. It was one of those hard knocks sort of moments where. I didn't like what somebody had said in an email, and he was technically a superior. He was not the head of the seminary, but he was a head of me, and I responded like way too intensely. Just I was not happy with the way he had handled something, and I thought, oh, okay, well I'm gonna push back on this, whatever. And I had to learn the hard way that, sometimes it's good to step back from the email after you read it. And
do not hit send.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you could write it, but maybe don't even put their name in the subject line.
Just in case.
Yeah, just in case you might hit send. Yeah.
And did you send it?
I have done.
Well, that first one I did. That's the one I had to learn the hard way.
Do you know what they caught us with is about 4 or 5 years ago that if you didn't put their name in the subject, but you accidentally put like at their name and it like auto-filled it because you're writing in the Microsoft got so smart, you're like, I didn't mean to send that to you. That was for me.
Schedule for later.
I've gotten in the habit of if you've got an email that's questionable, I just take out the to, so it's blank. Then take out the subject line and then write the email.
And then delete the email. Just a blank email.
Or just copy and paste it into a Word document. That way you have...
what's even smarter? Just write it in Word.
Yeah.
I actually, Nick saw me do this the other day. I wrote an email 2 months ago and I had to use it this past week.
But at least you got to sit on it and at least determine if it was the right move to make.
And parts of it were not iambic pentameter and that's my only style. So I wanted to make sure.
Okay. You needed to run it through ChatGPT and just make sure it checked out.
Chef
GPT
GPT.
is so awesome.
Chef GPT.
I'll tell you, I got into the habit. If I question an email or its tone or the intent, I always ask somebody else to read it.
Yeah. That's a good habit.
For me, if I question it, I just stop because I know I'm questioning it for some reason and I shouldn't have that question.
Yeah. I write perfect emails.
You nailed it.
Nailing it.
I am officially nailing it.
All right. So speaking of nailing it, here's a time that I almost didn't nail it. My honeymoon was in Tanzania. We went for 10 days and looked at animals. It was incredible, like a photo safari. Day one in the Serengeti, we're checking into our tent, which means a guy's carrying our bags to our tent. My wife has her lemonade. We're walking. I have a nice camera. I take a picture of her and 3 elephants behind her. She's smiling. And the guy's like unzipping our big tent. And the elephant starts running. And I said, sir. And he looks up and he goes, run. And I'm taller and faster than him by a mile. And my wife is 5'4" and holding her lemonade. And I'm like, I'm about to outrun my wife and this guy from this charging elephant. So as we're running, I think, what do I always want to do in a movie? And I want that girl to stop carrying her wine or her lemonade. Yeah. So I just slap her hand so I could get rid of it. And I just pull her, and it's like all brush. Like, run where?
Yeah,
Like,
Right.
this thing has 4 legs. Can't
You
outrun
only have
it.
2.
I can only outrun her. And I'm like,
That's
this is a dumb
2 times
honeymoon.
as many legs.
It is.
This is dumb honeymoon.
Honeymoon. Jeff proves he's nailing it with that old college speed. Like, so we run, and then they pull up later with Jeeps and stuff, and they're like, would you guys like a different tent? And I'm like, yes. And they said, well, just so you know, an elephant that's trying to scare people makes a lot of noise, and that one was trying to kill you because it didn't make any noise. So later, when people would take pictures of elephants right by our little family style dinner, Amanda and I would get up and just walk off like, we don't like these elephants.
They seem pretty wild.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a series on LinkedIn called The 5 Times That Nature Tried to Kill Me, and that's one of them.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Well,
Cool.
Honeymooning in Tanzania is intense.
Yeah.
Honeymooning in Tanzania is in heated tents. No, they were heated. I just wanted to throw it in there.
Okay. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. Hey, Jeremy,
Yes, sir.
you know, this question jumps out at me in a big way because you have inspired me a lot with your stories, but also with the way
I have
that
that
you
tendency with people.
do. You're an inspirer. You have pretty big biceps too. Like the rest of us have on long sleeves.
Yeah. Go to youtube.com/
Jeremy's biceps. Oh,
the beatitude, the underscore beatitude. No, does he have a channel dedicated?
Jeremy's biceps.
please don't go to that YouTube channel.
Don't look that up.
I cannot endorse that.
Yeah, fair.
Whew. Okay, one time you were telling me a story about, you know, in a business setting when you felt the need to get out in the name of everything you believe in, and I would love for you to share that with this group.
Talking about the New York trip.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
you know, New
geez.
York is a theme here. New York,
Wow.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
If it starts
Yeah.
with new, it ain't good.
Yeah. Right.
We need the old stuff.
Everything that's new is bad again.
Yeah.
Look
So-
at these old biceps.
Oh. Making me feel insecure here, boys. Yeah, I was in the finance industry, hedge fund industry.
Yeah.
And, raising capital in the corporate sense, it's, I don't want to say it's not the greatest industry, but
It's not the greatest industry.
yeah, I'm glad that is behind me. But I was courting this very large institution. You all would know exactly who it is, but we'd been courting this institution for quite a while for a sizable allocation. And this manager that we were talking to and having relationship with, I mean, you build the relationships over the course of, years.
Sure.
I mean, nobody makes an allocation just like that. And so anyway, he was in New York and he was like, hey, let's go to dinner. I'm like, sure, absolutely. We go to dinner, and after it's done, he says, hey, I got something special for you. Now keep in mind, here's the caveat. This guy knew everything about me.
Yeah.
The guy knew my spirituality. He knew my family. He knew that I'm above reproach. I love my family. My family is first and foremost everything in my life. It's
Yeah.
God, family, and then my business. This guy, it's not like somebody that didn't know me. He knew exactly, who I was. I always made fun of growing up. I was they called me the Boy Scout because I never wanted to do anything wrong. I always wanted to do things right. So I was always made fun of. It's also important to note that throughout my entire adult career, life, I should say, I've never been to a strip club. Don't want to go to one.
Yep.
Right? It's one of those things that just don't cross. I'm married. I don't want to disrespect my wife. And I'm not afraid to tell people that. I've been made fun of in almost every corporate sense when everybody goes out to, strip club or doing stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, guys, I'm going to take a rain check. I'm going to go back. What do you mean you're going to go? Dude, come on, hang out with the guys. I'm like, man, I love my wife too much to do that. I don't need to do that. And then getting made fun of
clapping for
ensues, right? Well, this guy goes, hey, I got something special for you. I want you to pulse out $300. And I'm like, all of a sudden my red flags are going up. And I'm like, why? He's like, we're not doing anything nefarious. I said, it's not a strip club. No. It's $300. It's this awesome bar. You'll love it. You'll love it. And in New York City, if you go anywhere, they got bottle service.
Sure.
A lot of times just to get in, you got to pay. I'm like, okay, as long as it's not a strip club, I'm not going to be anywhere that's going to be questionable. He's like, I was like, where is it? He goes, I'm going to surprise you. I'm like, man, dude, you got to tell me where we're going before I commit to this. He's like, you have to trust me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust you, right? This one time, I'm going to trust you. So we go pulse out this money and we pull up to this place. And there's a bouncer out front, and windows are blacked out. I'm like, is this a dance club? It's like, I'm too old for a dance club. I don't need to go do this. He's like, no, it's just a bar. So my heart's racing a million miles per hour. My spidey senses are going off.
Something's off.
Right. Something is totally off. We go in, guy checks the IDs. I walk in to another set of doors. I'm like, why do you have to have a second set of doors? Right?
You got
Come on.
velvet ropes for
This
your
is
velvet
not-
ropes.
This is not right. Open
an
up the other
airlock.
door, and it's a very well decorated, environment. It's really posh. It's upscale, super nice. I didn't see anything immediately that caught me off guard until I look at the bar. I see a bunch of dudes. And I look to my left, and I see a tremendous amount of tens, perfect tens. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
There is too big of a ratio of really good-looking women with very abnormally looking dudes. I mean, I was an exception to that rule. I mean, I made the first one way better.
You were nailing
I look
it
way
still.
better. And I'm like, this doesn't look right. But they're all dressed in really nice and stuff. So he's like, okay, I'm going to get a drink and go to the bar, order a glass of wine. And he goes, hey, I'm going to use the restroom. I don't know how much detail. I know this is a family.
I would keep it PG, but you can share enough that it's clear.
Okay. I'm standing at the bar, and I just happen to kind of look over to the side, and I'm still trying to check this place out to get a sense of what it is. Well, there was a silk curtain that you could see through, and there was another seating area on the other side, and couches and chairs and everything. And I see this guy with this, I thought it was his wife, and in one motion, the lady took her dress off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I immediately freaked out. And as I'm watching this spectacle, freaking out, this blonde steps right into my view. And I'm like, she goes, hello. I was like, what are you? She goes, no, who are you? I said, no, what are you? She goes, anything you want me to be. I turned right around to the bartender and I said, check. I slammed money down, didn't even wait for the receipt.
Yep.
Went straight out of that place.
Yep.
And the very first call I made was to my wife. I was
Amen.
shaking. I
Amen.
said, hey, sweetheart, this is where I'm at. This is what just happened. Here's what I'm doing. My wife was like, love you, babe. Love you, love you. I love you, love you. Right?
brother.
The second call that I made was to my boss at that time, which was a very good Catholic man. And I said, hey, man, this is where I'm at. This is who I'm with. This is what just happened. And I just walked out on him.
Good.
And my boss said, good for you. We don't need their money. Go back to your hotel.
Nothing is worth money.
And so I had that flight. I'm like, man, I am not doing this. I am not compromising this character. I love my wife too. I was just sitting there thinking, can you imagine what my wife would have felt?
Well, on behalf of the Beatitudes, I'll tell you, you chose wisely.
I nailed it.
Jeremy, this has been amazing, but there's something we have to finish with. The Simpsons, which is my second reference today, starts every episode differently. Like Bart Simpson, we actually end every episode differently. And so we're going to do something special today. And I'm going to need y'all to narrate this for the people that are listening at home and not watching at home. So we're going to do something called Silly Soda Sampler. All right. So what's going to happen is this is actually a competition for you guys as a team. I have 3 sodas here. They're completely covered. Soda A, Soda B, Soda C.
Amazing.
Is this going to be like puke flavored?
I promise you it's not. And I want to tell you something. I'm also going to participate in the drinking of it so you can tell that I didn't buy puke or barf or Ralph or whatever other versions of that word you have.
Yeah.
So I want you to know that they are actual names of things that you would have as part of your delightful dinner, meal, dessert, whatever it is. So I'm going to be opening these, pouring these in shot glasses. I also brought some nice Trappist beer because I'm not sure what this is going to be like for you guys.
Something to wash it down.
And for me. So if you could do the honors, Paul, and open up the Trappist beer. And I am going to need y'all to narrate a little bit while I'm doing this on how you're feeling right now as I get us all ready.
This is Chimay Red. This stuff is delicious. And Trappists know how to make some really good beer.
Love Chimay.
What's the best Chimay is the Royal Grand Reserve.
The blue one?
The blue one.
Grand Reserve.
Yeah.
Grand Reserve? Does it
Yeah,
sound
it's
right
Grand
to you?
Reserve. That's right.
All right, there's
Yeah,
3
this.
different drinks total,
Just
so
got-
each of you has to have 3 shot glasses.
Just got all kinds of shot glasses
Pass
going
it
on.
down.
Yeah,
This is
and
incredible.
and here's the good news. I didn't buy you an entire bottle you have to finish. I also have cups for your beer so that we can all split the
This
Chimay.
the goblet's coming back.
Guys,
Second appearance in season 1.
I have this weird obsession with like thinking, how can we finish the show? And so here I was. Beverages. People are like, the things you're doing on air don't compute for audio podcast. You know what? They're wrong. Okay, I'm going to be.
Well, they have a point.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're.
I'll pour all of them into this one and then pass these out. I don't know why I
Sure.
already gave you your shot glasses. I kind of need them back. But okay, so if you could, Nick,
Yep.
describe what you're seeing.
Yeah,
here
so
with
Jeff's
A.
pouring ale, or I'm sorry,
Ale.
soda number 1.
Okay, so
out of a
feel
blue
free to start
boot.
getting your
fizzy.
wafting.
Fizzy.
there you
Oh,
go.
that's got a caramel color and a little bit of a caramel flavor.
What do you think?
Maybe like a maple
Paul's
maple
finally getting
syrup.
his-
Oh, that tickles the nostrils.
It smells a bit.
I'm going to drink a little
like
bit while we're
maple syrup.
talking.
Yeah, I bet it is a syrup.
It's like a
I'll keep
maple.
going because I didn't tell you this. 10 points for each one you get right as a team. So it would be 10 points for each of you.
Got it.
Jeremy, you don't have any
Oh.
points
A
yet.
lot of points.
We all drank at the same time, which is,
Yeah,
That's
That's
Yeah.
a maple syrup.
I'm gonna
Maple
call that
syrup.
maple syrup.
Maple syrup.
yeah. I think we're unanimous.
Yeah. Maple.
So we're
cream
going
soda.
maple cream soda.
Yeah,
All right.
agree
The
with that.
correct answer on this one is not maple cream soda, but you're all going to get 5 points because it is bacon with maple syrup.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
so we were
maple syrup is
almost there.
The bacon,
Yeah.
the bacon doesn't really come
It's
through.
subtle.
The problem is the bacon was
Oh,
the,
the bacon-
primary ingredient, and you guys chose the accent ingredient.
Are the bacon
So
bits
don't-
down in the bottom of that cup?
They are. They settled. Don't accidentally mix up your cups because you're supposed to be drinking cup number
next,
B
that's bad.
now.
next cup
B,
B.
B
This is
might be your main
orange.
course.
is,
You might call it.
Sounds like spice.
It's got some spice, some zest, something citrus.
That is pretty strange since I know what it is to even taste that.
Oh, that's
I don't
then
even know how to.
It's like
describe
missing. It doesn't have a sweetness like I thought it would.
tastes like
spice. I can't.
Just
name.
tastes like spice. Well, keep going with that thought process. Since I do know what it is, I'm allowed to give you
is it just
some hints here.
paprika juice?
Paprika juice is pretty.
There's like a
keep going
ginger.
with
Is
that.
there a ginger element to
Those are
it?
your next ones.
Ginger.
What meal would you have that would have all these things in there? I feel like I should be unveiling the bottle.
Is it breakfast?
It's pretty close.
First one was breakfast. This is lunch.
Yeah, so you already had bacon. Oh, that smell is pretty hideous. Does anybody
I
want to
keep
make
going
a guess?
back for
or
more tastings, even though I don't really like it.
That is truly a funny
Yeah.
soda.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's the weirdest
yeah.
taste.
What if I told you you were drinking enchilada?
okay.
Enchilada.
That
soda.
actually does make sense.
I mean,
Cumin.
y'all went through like paprika, cumin.
Yeah.
Cumin. That's what I'm tasting. Is cumin.
enchilada soda. Yeah.
So
Which one is the new one?
It's
okay,
like
the
a
new one. This is
combination of things.
one for each of you right here. This is sample number C, which is how the numeric alpha works. Sample C. What are you smelling? How are we feeling?
Clear.
Oh,
The problem is these glasses aren't clear. These
know-
shot glasses.
is it like
different
corn
colors.
on the cob?
no, this
Oh no, it's
You
like
know
a
this-
cotton candy corn on
no,
the cob.
like that wafer candy.
Oh my goodness! Hey, you know what? They also said this is only made with MSG.
What?
That is really bad.
There isn't a single natural ingredient in anything
No,
you've put in your mouth
absolutely
today.
Not. That is
Wow, that's bad.
fake.
It's pretty.
this like-
pretty bad?
Is this the inside wrapper of a popcorn
Fake
thing that you finish? Like,
pretzel.
That's
Holy cow.
it's like a finished popcorn bag. That's what I'm
you're,
tasting.
you're eating the bag.
burnt
Yeah,
You're
the
drinking
burnt
the bag.
popcorn
with too
bag.
much old butter or something.
Yeah,
on
like you go into a movie theater to
Ugh.
clean up after everybody's left, and you just lick the inside of one of those bags.
You know that's actually a part of your
They
payment if you
squeezed
work
out
there.
the beer mat inside of an old popcorn bag.
That's part of your pay.
I did. I worked at a theater. I used to
Oh wait, that's because I'm smelling
clean
beer.
up diapers and all
And the
sorts of
popcorn.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to where you started on Group C. You were really close. What was your very first guess?
Corn on the cob was what I said.
All right, I'm going to reveal C to you right now so you can see that you got it right. It's sweet.
Oh,
And it has
what's
a picture
that?
of the cob. So
Nice.
sweet corn
There
on
you
the
go.
cob.
Sweet corn soda.
15 points each. You
What was
missed the,
oh, yeah, the
enchilada,
first one.
the very first one, just so you can see that bacon is absolutely the primary ingredient
Bacon,
here.
soda.
Where did you get these?
With maple syrup.
This is my favorite store. This is actually what I feed my kids.
H-E-B?
Guess what we're having tonight, kids? Enchiladas.
Blup, 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 blup. Drink up.
All right.
Future.
That's it for us here on the Beatitudes. We're going to be back on the bonus with Jeremy Robinson from Cardboard Spaceship, and we are going to enjoy our beer in between then. Until we see you next time, we'll see you in the Eucharist. God bless you all.
Cheers.
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 This podcast is part of the Spoke Street Network. For more great podcasts, visit spokestreet.com.